Hello everyone, it's Infinity Gamer here, and as soon as you saw that Starmada trailer drop by Corvus Belli, you knew this video was coming. So obviously, not long after I released my speculation around what that Starmada box contained, I think it was actually less than 24 hours, Corvus Belli then launched a trailer video that listed out exactly what comes in the box. So I was way off on some of my guesses. I was a little bit spot on maybe one, and then obviously hedged my bets on the others. But regardless of whether I was right or wrong, this box and this Starmada Sectorial is just amazing. So what I'm going to do is jump through a couple of the key points. First, in the N4 trailer, so that we can go through a couple of the key things about the boxes, the rules, and everything that's being announced there. And then I'm going to go through the Starmada trailer reveal and just go through each of the models. So obviously, skip forward if you're not interested in the general consensus around the N4 stuff and you just want to get straight to the Starmada. Great work by Corvus Belli, like building up this hype train, not only for M4, but also for O12 and Starmada. Like, I think this may be one of the best marketing releases I've seen from a wargaming company that isn't GW. Obviously, they get it right a lot of the time. Corvus Belli have done an excellent job with this. Occasionally I get notifications that things are going to be coming out and kind of like press releases. That's not ahead of anyone else who's also on that list. You know, I'm not special in any regard at all. But the fact that there was nothing, everyone kept really quiet, and then they just drop some really informative stuff. Well, they drop a box and then 24 hours later they drop trailers and things like that. They've done a great job of psyching up the fan base, I think we can all agree. So with this N4 trailer, obviously it's great. They're launching a new edition of Infinity. We've known it's coming for a little while. We got a flavour for how N4 is going to be a bit different to N3 with the Code 1 rule set, which I love. I love a lot of the changes they've got, and I really hope that it is kind of like the core of N4. And that then they're building on it by adding some complexity, adding new rules like for smoke, more hacking profiles, obviously impetuous orders, coordinated orders, linked teams. So we're going to get a lot of the stuff that we didn't get from N3 to Code 1 coming back in M4, but on a better rule set as far as I'm concerned. So I'm really excited for M4. I have been for a while, and obviously now that we've managed to play a lot of Code 1, at least we've got a brief introduction as to what we can expect. So obviously 3 new sectorials. I'm obviously been following Code 1 and I've been following O12 more than I've maybe been following anything that happened in N3 and some of the factions outside of Code 1. So this Cosmoflot, so Space Russians, this is odd in my mind because having just done a little bit of research around the lore, what I learned was that obviously the Ariadne ship had the Americans, French, Scottish Europeans, Russians on it and then kind of got left on Dawn. And so they're technologically a little bit behind, is kind of what I got the impression from N3, but again, very, very basic surface level understanding of that. So for then Ariadne Russians to now have a space fleet is very interesting for me, especially when it involves a bear in a spacesuit. So this is pretty cool. So I'm really interested as to the story as to kind of this Russian space fleet. Very excited about that. Again, Corvus Belli just keeping me guessing, which is easy to do. So yeah, Space Bear, love it. Obviously Starmada, we had a little guess at the box a little while ago, and we'll obviously look at the Starmada trailer in a little bit more detail, so I won't vote on that. And then obviously White Company I think had been announced, or am I getting that confused with White Banner? Again, because it's not O12, I don't know as much about it. But so we've got 3 new sectorials. Obviously, the Starmada Sectorial for O12 kind of brought them in line because they didn't... I think they were the last faction at the tail end of N3 that didn't have a sectorial. So Starmada kind of brings them in line with most of the other factions, is my understanding of things. So now everyone kind of has a sectorial, and some factions have more than one sectorial, is my understanding of everything. And then obviously the Combined Army are getting a bit, maybe more models. They're getting some cool stuff. I'm excited for that. The Combined Army are very cool. I don't play them enough, but they're a very cool army. I get beaten by them quite a bit. Thanks, Ollie, for that. Obviously, the N4 book we got to see, and this is all very normal. So we did obviously see this before, and this did feature in my previous video. Is that there's the core book and there's the rule book. The rule book will be available as a free PDF online. Corvus Belli always does that, so that anyone can get into the rules without having to pay for the books if they don't want to. So the reason you would get this is if you like a hardcover version of a rule book, that you prefer flicking through that and reading it rather than reading a PDF. But also the core book is more about the lore and the fiction around the human sphere and the infinity world. So as I've mentioned a little bit, I'm dropping hints here a lot, but I've got a lore video dropping on Friday that basically gives us a rough essence as to how we got here, but this is obviously going to be in a bit more depth. This is also going to feature a lot more information around O12, which was slightly on the light side of the lore stuff when it got launched only tail end of last year, I believe it was. So yeah, this is going to be good. I am going to get this obviously because I want to learn more about the lore and obviously want to brush up on my knowledge around that. But it's not essential for you to play N4. Here we've got the bundle pack. So this is the Gen Con, I believe, special, or the launcher special at least, which CB typically does with that. So obviously if you buy all of these things, you'll then get a free Shona Carano model. You'll also get the limited edition Octavia Grimstaddir. That is terribly pronounced, and I apologise straight away. If you get all together, so obviously Starmada N4 book, you'll basically then get the Octavia limited edition pre-order figure, and you'll also get Shona Carano. That's a lot to be getting. So what do I remember that was similar? So I obviously remember Wildfire was very similar, where you got Wildfire, you also got Team Sirius as an extra, you got Valkyrie, and you got Hippolyta, I believe. I jumped straight in on that one. I can't remember how much it ended up being, but they're generally quite good value, especially if a couple of the models are going to be useful to you. So we've obviously got a really big release schedule coming up, so I'm not going to be spamming YouTube with videos around Starmada beyond this, because everything's coming from Corvus Belli. That's a much better source for it. And then obviously as Starmada starts to come out and things like that, I'll probably then focus on the models, the profiles, maybe list building or something like that. But obviously CB are the best people to be talking about this sort of stuff. So yeah, we've basically got from on Monday the 10th, there's N4 and Starmada unboxing, which is going to be quite cool. And then there's the Sectorial Army Spotlight on Starmada as well. And then I think it's on the Tuesday, the 11th, we then look at the Starmada profiles, which is, I'm going to be looking at that very, very closely because that's very cool. And we also get to see the designing Starmada. I found the O12 version of that very interesting when Wildfire was being released. So would highly recommend watching that if you've got any interest in learning more about O12, especially if you've already watched the Wildfire stuff. Then obviously it goes Cosmoflot unit profiles on the Wednesday and the White Company profiles on the Wednesday as well. So pretty heavy release schedule from CB. And then on the Thursday, there's a Starmada battle report, which could be quite cool to watch, and then an M4 introduction. This is all looking very good. And then Friday the 14th, there's the Studio Update Summer Special Edition. So that's after the Interplanetario live streaming, which if you want to know even more about what Corvus Belli's got going on, that would be a great place to start. So a week that focuses on N4, obviously, but it's pretty much O12 week. There's one day, maybe two, where they're not talking about O12 models and profiles. So for myself, it's going to be a busy week of just watching stuff that Corvus Belli launches. So let's talk about pricing. So going back to that bundle set, there's been some, I don't know if they're leaks, I don't know if they're actual like retail pricing that's been released, or I don't know if it's wild speculation, but you're pretty much looking at, in euros, the Infinity M4 book plus the exclusive pre-order model Octavia. That's looking at 64.95 euros, so pretty much 65 euros at that point. Starmada Action Pack is looking at around 80 euros actually. And then Shona Carano event exclusive model at 20 euros. Now, quick conversions on that if you can't be bothered, which I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't, because it's annoying opening up Google and doing things like that. So let's say we got 65 euros for the Infinity N4 book and Octavia. That's going to sit around 76, 77 US dollars. So it wouldn't surprise me if they maybe rounded that up to 80 bucks or so. So that's what you're looking at for the Infinity M4 book and an exclusive pre-order model. I think that's pretty good value. So that would be definitely on my to-buy list. Then you got the Starmada Action Pack, which is looking at around 80 euros from this release, which is sitting at around 94, 95 US dollars. So probably around 100 bucks or so, which I think brings it in line with other 10 miniature kind of battle pack boxes that have been released before. So that is good to know. And then obviously the Shona Carano event exclusive mini, we're basically looking at about 20 euros for that, which puts it to around 24 US dollars. So obviously, poor me being based in New Zealand means that there's going to be a little bit more of a price tag on these, but not too much. Out of all of this, I'm definitely obviously getting the Starmada Action Pack because that is very cool. I'm on the fence as to whether I will get whether if it were my money, I would get the full Infinity N4 book, Octavia, Starmada, Shona Carano, so basically the Gen Con bundle. It's great value. I think you end up saving maybe about 20 euros, so about, what, 24 bucks or so if you do it that way. So obviously if you need all the models, that's the best way to go about it. Because Octavia is part of a faction that I don't collect, I don't know if that's definitely not a deal breaker. Like, it's a nice to have, which is obviously how you should look at any exclusive pre-order model, as a nice to have anyway. Shona Carano is good, but again, I think she's going to play in Pano, and even though I've got Aristea, and I don't really like the Aristea model as much as I love this one, and the model's also really cool. Like, obviously in my previous video we only got to see the box, but now we've actually seen teasers of we've actually seen pictures of the model itself. I think it's ruddy cool. Like, I know it's dividing a lot of people, where people prefer Octavia's pose to Shona Carano, but I think as a display piece, Shona, to me, has lots of potential for, possibly, if I had the skill, OSL on the sword. Obviously, it's very dramatic with her killing that Shazvasti model. Whereas Octavia, for me, is more of a standard, like tabletop gaming miniature, where obviously not necessarily doing anything too dramatic, because you've got to think about how it plays on a battlefield. Whereas Shona, for me, is a display case, gorgeous, stunning sculpt. So that's the side of the fence I come down on, but obviously the good thing about opinions is they're free. I will get the Infinity M4 book, even though I use the PDFs. In fact, in a game I played last night, I just had the PDF open and was just checking rules rather than flicking through a book. But it's more for the lore side of things, and actually having the books is quite a nice thing. I'm a bit of a book collector, bibliophile, so I'm going to be getting that. Obviously, I'm getting the Starmada action pack. That goes without saying. On the fence about one or two things, and because I'm on the fence about those one or two things, I'm not sure if it's quite worthwhile me getting the entire bundle, but then I'm also a sucker for a bundle, so I'll probably just get the bundle. So that's a huge insight into my buying thoughts, is that I'll basically just get anything. So yeah, the combined army pack was around the same price as the Starmada action pack. Corvus Belli are being incredibly consistent here, in that basically if it's like a 10 model battle pack, they charge the same amount of money. They don't inflate the price because this is a sectorial, or because this is highly in demand, or because there's lots of hype around it. I really do appreciate Corvus Belli for doing that, is they've just got consistent pricing for quantity of models, sets of models. So thank you so much, CB. Really do love you for that. Right, so that's the N4 breakdown. Very excited for N4. As I said in my previous video, the hype train has very much left the station, and let's keep riding it right into the Starmada trailer. Keep it together, keep it together. Come on, you can do this. The artwork is amazing. So I think I basically skipped to like the second slide of this trailer, and I've paused straight away. You can basically see the bike being unloaded, and it looks like it's the biker waiting for the bike to be unloaded, and there's a whole bunch of similar people. In the background, there's some kind of technical people on the left-hand side looking at a big hollow screen. There's someone kind of maybe doing infantry on a hollow projector. There's a really cool dropship. I really do sometimes wish that CB would kind of add to their terrain, either by partnering with one of their many terrain suppliers to do the occasional like feature dropship stuff. That would be quite cool. Yeah, you can see the bike being unloaded from the ship. It looks really cool. Then obviously we get a close-up of a crusher. Then we get the blue jackets, who is crazy. I love that blue jacket. And then we obviously slide into bronze, not Bron Burgundy, which it never was going to be, but bronze. Obviously, still a lot to know. And then we go obviously onto the biker, who's very cool. It looks like it's kind of like it's potentially a half mask. So like a visor that comes down. I'm not entirely sure if on this image you're basically seeing lips and cheek, or whether it's just how the light is playing. But either way, it's very cool. This bike design's pretty cool. Again, when we saw the box art for the N4 Starmada pack, we couldn't infer a lot from the design. This is very similar, obviously, to it. There seems to be more of a fuel tank body than maybe what we saw before. Very middle heavy, quite skinny at the front. I like the design. I think it's very similar to obviously the existing bikes that Corvus Belli have got out for other factions. So half of me wishes they'd gone in kind of like a complete opposite direction to what existed already. But I can also kind of understand that maybe with O12, because it is that government agency faction kind of above, that it's probably pulling technology from other factions rather than actually developing its own stuff. So maybe there's a lore reason as to this. Obviously, he's got a BT stick. He's got like a baton truncheon thing, which is probably a close combat weapon, maybe? Again, massively wild speculation here. Possibly, again, someone's going to correct me on this, but maybe that's an SMG he's holding now. And then obviously in the box art, we thought it was a pistol that he was holding up in the air, but now maybe it's actually taking shape into an SMG. Feel free to correct me. Again, I'm not a weapons expert, but the baton looks pretty cool. Then obviously they jump to the Kappas, which are very cool. So on the left-hand side, I think that's a multi-sniper. Then in the middle, we've got the hacker profile with the Catwoman mask, and then we've got beardy McNorse God over there on the right-hand side with the HMG. And again, more tactical rocks than you can shake a stick at. I know they're getting a bit of rap, so if you're in any of the Facebook groups, obviously people love commenting on the tactical rocks. I like them. I very much come on the side of it creates a very dynamic pose. You look at some other war games and it's just 2 feet planted on the ground, and then obviously you're relying on the body pose to really give you any dynamism. This immediately lends itself to a bit of dynamism because you're interacting with an environment. I'm a huge fan of this sort of stuff. I'm very much pro tactical rock, if anyone's keeping score. Then we've got Crusher. I think I was right. This was maybe the only thing I was right about on my guesswork from the Starmada box, is that this looks like it's the AD drop Crusher, which I'm very glad that has a model now. Thank you so much, Corvus Belli, for giving us models for new things. I like the Kappa designs here. They are very, very cool. And it's great that we've now got most of the weapon options now. Blue coats. Where did these come from? Not just their design, but did anyone know that this sort of thing was coming? Naval Security Detachment? Okay, we'll talk about the design in a second, but I don't know what role they're going to be. I didn't know these were coming. I don't know anything about them. So obviously they're a blank canvas as to what role they're going to fit within the army. Yeah, wow, just so cool. The Crusher. So we've got 2 versions here. Obviously we've got the AD drop, combat jump parachutist on the right, which is perfect, and then we've got the forward deployment version on the left. Correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of looks like a female sculpt for that Crusher on the left, which I am very much a fan of. I love the idea that they can do kind of feminine armor and make it look really cool. I love the O12 sculpts and the fact that they keep exploring the boundaries of it, obviously with heavier weapons, heavier armor, and then obviously lighter stuff as well. They're just nailing it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. These O12 sculpts, they're pretty much flawless. Bronzes, Deep Space Peacemaker core. Now, doesn't Peacemaker sound ominous? It's like, you will make peace. And judging by how chonky this guy is, peace will be made. Obviously, he's got cool pirate jacket. I was very much on the fence about this pirate jacket when I first saw it, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Which sci-fi heavily armored guy is then going to throw a jacket on just to accessorize as he heads out onto the battlefield? And I remember that some people were saying the same. I think it was about the Pano and Eugene, 1 or 2 of those models. It was like, laden up with armor, probably got some cool futuristic thermodynamic kit that keeps you warm, but I'm also going to throw on a fairy jacket. From a practical sense, I'm looking at it going, this is unrealistic, and what are you doing? But then it's the style. It is a fictional world. Why not throw a pirate jacket on a heavily armored guy? And obviously give him a tactical rock, which again, I'm pro tactical rock. It's a little bit silly, but it's amazing. And this is probably going to set me up nicely for what I'm going to say about the blue jacket. But obviously this model's amazing. I'm a huge fan of capes and jackets anyway, because they're a pleasure to paint. And they obviously add an element of dynamism to the model as well. So don't know anything about Bronze. He looks, again, like he's kind of Omega. I think I was right looking at the Starmada box set in that he might be Omega-sized in his final guys, and maybe in the silhouette profile as well, but that's where I'm a bit more borderline. Maybe he's going to end up being a bit bigger than the Omega, but not as big as obviously the Gamma or anything like that. Obviously still a lot to learn, but this week we're going to learn it all. Do love the design of that clenched fist, that just power, peace has been made kind of pose. I'm a huge fan, huge fan. Law keepers. Nothing, they're just here to keep the law. That's all they're here for. Badlands Patrol. Again, maybe 1 or 2 people are just going, loads of tactical rocks for something that's basically a space fleet. But, the space, just because they're a space armada doesn't mean that they don't eventually get to land, and then they need bikes, and then they need tactical rocks to hide behind and things like that. I think I'm going to be a fan of this. I was wrong with many things with the Starmada box preview, in that I said I'm excited for this because generally they've got, I think, 6.4 profiles. A couple of people, thank you so much for those that did, were quick to correct me and said they're usually 8.4 profiles, which makes me even more excited for these guys, because in games where the missions are going to involve you potentially running up, grabbing objectives or securing locations, or punching a hole through a defensive line, these are going to be invaluable. Regardless of whether you like the model or not, I think you're going to see them in O12 lists a lot because they give that dynamism. I happen to love the model too. I'm very interested to see how my white paint scheme is going to work on this, but that's a problem for another day. Well, problem for next month, I think, because these are getting launched relatively soon. It's a great problem to have either way. Those of you who follow my videos know I'm now in ramble mode, but sorry, you just skip ahead. Saladin! I was heavily wrong here, and I will hold my hand up and admit it. I decided that the cover art was for Casanova because I said, the Saladin model that we've seen for Defiance basically has him with long hair and it looks different and I don't think it's the same. And then obviously they launched it and it goes, no, it's Saladin. What are you talking about? Some people are quite familiar with this, and I think there's been mention of Holo Projector on him from people who know what he is, who he is, and what he does. I'm not familiar with this profile or how it's historically been with N3. So obviously what I was getting confused was that cloak with its pattern on there. I was thinking that was Mimetism -6, which is what led me to Casanova. Whereas other people I think are saying that it's the Holo Projector kind of cloak, which means that he's going to be able to pretend that there's more of him. Until I see the profile, it's going to be difficult to say how essentially it's going to be, but Holo Projector, I've gone against it once before and it was brutal. It might be nice to actually have some Holo Projector in the list. And again, complementary tactical rock. The sculpt, I quite like it, actually. I think I prefer it to what I expected the Saladin model to become when it did eventually arrive through something like Defiance. But this is cool. I'm very happy that this is in here. So much to learn. Who is he? What does he do? The one that we haven't really focused on yet is the blue coats. Is such an interesting look. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Obviously wearing his pirate jacket, obviously got his face mask on, and then his pirate Armada hat. This is, I think if I'd have known that this is the direction that O12 was going to head in terms of its design from Wildfire, I probably would have maybe looked at a colour scheme that involved more navy blue as opposed to going white and grey. Because unfortunately, I think I really want to now lean way towards that naval idea of things. But my colour scheme just currently doesn't lend itself very much to it. So I've got to try and find a way of incorporating a naval-esque theme whilst also staying true to my colour scheme. I love the hat. I do love this sculpt. Again, when I looked at bronze, I thought that jacket was a bit silly. And then it warmed to me, and now I love it. It's the same with the blue coats. When I first saw them, I thought, why are you wearing a captain's hat and a jet? This isn't a fancy dress party. But the more and more I look at it, the more I love it. It's so different to any other game and anything else I've seen. Like, it's bringing in a bit of that fiction, the fact that the world is maybe a bit more dynamic than good guys versus bad guys. There's maybe a richness in the tapestry of the culture and the society that maybe I hadn't fully anticipated and appreciated. And it's just amazing. Like, Starmada is great on so many levels, and it's just given us something completely unexpected that I'm now really looking forward to, and that is the blue coats. So that is my rundown of the entire Starmada set, pretty much model by model, waffle by waffle, as anyone who follows me has come to expect by now. I'm here to not disappoint. Are there any sculpts I don't like? So I think the only one I'm not massively keen, and I think this is more a result of the fact that every single sculpt in this Starmada Sectorial box set is stunning, is that then when something isn't stunning, it does just stand out slightly more. And for me, it's the Kappa Hacker. So she looks more like she should be in like Marvel Crisis Protocol than maybe in this set. But that's probably because last night I was looking at a load of Crisis Protocol models, and this kind of reminds me of kind of like a hybrid maybe between one or two of them. But again, that's me really nitpicking because she's still a great sculpt and is definitely not a bad one. The Crushers look fantastic. I love both of their sculpts. They're much better than I ever thought they would have been as Crushers. Hugely dynamic. Obviously the bike, I'm still in love with that from seeing it on the cover art of the Starmada box set. And now that I've seen the actual model itself, I'm only more in love with it, and I cannot wait to get it on the table. Obviously, it's a huge base, which is to be expected from something like this, so it's not going to be able to go everywhere, but it's going to be great speed, it's going to be great versatility. I love it. Obviously, the fact that Saladin might be coming with something like Holo Projector also gives O12 more range than I may be expecting, and then it's great to have the Kappas with different loadouts, so that you pretty much can play what you see is what you get at any game. I've still got no idea what the blue coats are going to be, what they're going to do, and obviously bronze is still a bit of a question mark. He looks pretty heavy. Obviously, I'm going to be getting this Starmada pack, and I'm going to be watching this next week with huge amounts of enthusiasm as CB release some profiles. They give us more information. I'm going to be soaking that up, so I'm going to be a bit quiet on the content creation front because I'm basically going to be in learn mode, and I'm going to go back to being a fan of the game and just consuming a whole bunch of the data. And the information that gets pushed out by Corvus Belli. I've got a video coming out that's already scheduled on Friday anyway. It was more of like a brief introduction to the history and the lore of the human sphere and infinity, because that's something that I think we could do with more information about. It's just how rich this world is that we're all playing in. So that was scheduled to go out on Friday anyway. That's going to stay scheduled. And then this is just, because my last video got made redundant so quickly, I thought I'd follow it up with the reactions. But then obviously we've got on Monday, everything starts. We're basically going to learn a lot more about all of these profiles, and it's going to be fantastic. CB have done another great job. I'm hyped for Starmada. I'm hyped for M4. It's just, I can't be more excited. I think I'm exhausted from actually being so excited from when the Starmada box launched that I'm actually physically drained from just getting so pumped about that. And then obviously the trailers launched. In New Zealand, they launched quite late last night. I think it was basically 11 o'clock at night. I was sitting there watching them all and then didn't sleep for about an hour, 2 hours afterwards. I'm a little bit frazzled just from so much excitement about Starmada and M4. Thank you so much for your support and all your comments that everyone put on the Starmada box. Everyone else also throwing in some of their ideas as to what it could be. Now, obviously, we know slightly more about what's going on. And if you're as excited about Starmada, Sectorial and M4 as I am, please drop in the comments what you're most excited for. Whether you're excited for the Cosmoflot, for Sectorial, if you're excited for those, what you expect them to be, that's fantastic. So I think lots of factions are hopefully excited for N4, even if they're not getting the same amount of attention as O12 is. I'm very lucky that I jumped in at O12 right at the very beginning, and it's just been kind of building and building and building for like the last year and a half or so. Those with more established factions are hopefully getting new stuff to get them excited for M4 as well. Regardless of whether you like O12, if you're new into Infinity, if you've just been learning Code 1 and now you're kind of on the cusp of N4, we're now obviously going to start to talk more about N4 and the changeover from Code 1 to that. So subscribe if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Obviously, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see behind-the-scenes shots and games in progress and painting updates. Thank you so much for watching another video of mine. I really do appreciate it. And yay for N4 and Starmada. I will catch you soon.